Hello, can you hear me? Evelina?
Hello, Domenico. We can hear you. Hi.
Okay. Ciao.
Hi. We are about to start in a few minutes. We are just waiting for 4:30 p.m. and we are going to start. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Evelina, for joining us too.
Shall I I turn my camera off until I'm on, right?
Oh, okay, and you can turn it on when you talk. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, just a quick question. I don't see the share button enabled for me. Is it
Very
normal?
true. Mine is disabled too. Gianna?
Yes, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
Just a minute.
Thanks.
Okay. Gianna, I think that we're good to begin.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, lovely. So first of all, welcome to everyone to this first Europe-wide discussion on some of the key hot topics around digital skills. And today's focus will, of course, be cybersecurity. We've got a high-powered panel that was able to give us some time today, so we're very excited about having some exchange of ideas. There are many of you that have connected from many, many different countries, so I want to thank you for that. I want to have a special thanks also to our Greek participants who are participating on a day off, so Haristovoli, and for all of our other instructors who have joined us today and who will be joining us tomorrow. For those of you who may or may not have seen it, we also have events tomorrow, which are going to be deep dives on some of our coursework and some of our products. Please do not hesitate to join if you have not yet planned to do so. We are going to start off. I'm very proud to present this this event today with my colleague, Karsten Siemens. Karsten, I think you're connected, if you want to say hi to everybody.
Thanks, Omar. Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all on this nice webinar. October is the Cybersecurity Month, so I think we are quite on spot with this very important topic, and it's a great pleasure to see you all on this call, and warm welcome. And I think we have a great panel, interesting presentations, lots to learn, lots to discuss. And just one key message, just looked up the latest numbers from different analyst house. So there's a forecast that during the next 3 or 5 years, there's a shortage up to 3.5 million cybersecurity experts. So I think this call is more than needed, and we are really looking forward to working together with you to bridge this gap. Thank you very much, Mo.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karsten. I think that's probably going to be one of the key stats of the day that we want to keep in mind, because whether we're an instructor, a student, whether we're an employer, right? This is a key stat that involves all of us. To get started, I just wanted to kind of go through a couple of opening thoughts. Karsten, can you confirm if you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you. So I just wanted to share a few opening thoughts with everyone, because obviously we're going to today zero in on cybersecurity, but it's part of a larger discussion, right, around digital skills and the future of digital skills in the European Union. I want to start by just kind of reminding a little bit, the Cisco Networking Academy remains firmly committed to promoting digital skills in the European Union in the most inclusive way possible, by reaching the largest amount of learners possible, from exploration all the way to professional certification. Just as a quick reminder, in 2020, this is what it looked like in terms of numbers. Over 360,000 learners used our platform in 2020, and also 2019 to 2020, sorry. And also 402,000 learners were actually using it since 1997 to obtain a professional certification. We work with over 7,400 instructors all throughout Europe, and 3,150 different schools. So this is a good slide. I always like to remind ourselves that the Networking Academy is a pretty vast and expansive family throughout Europe. And we have different experiences, different backgrounds, different levels, different types of schools, different types of curricula, different types of level, from university to vocational school to technical high schools. And it's really important to remember, because this is one of our strengths, right, that as an organization, to be able to have such a diverse network of professionals in the educating sector, and also a diverse network of students that are learning from our program at any given time. So this year, more than ever, we've really remembered that we have to leverage what are our key strengths to meet the challenges, right? So there's learning and innovation, and I think that that's one of the key things that our ecosystem brings us, is our ability to innovate. And this ecosystem is based on strategic partnerships, right? We, as the Cisco Networking Academy, could not really exist if it wasn't for the trust that we've had from schools, from every level, and NGOs and public sector and private sector partners all over Europe. And finally, our platform, right? That's been conceived to support both blended and in-presence learning opportunities. And I think that during this year, our distance learning offering has really been one of the key differentiators that has made us able to continue accompanying and helping our learners all over Europe. So to be able to better innovate, we need to listen to students, to our educators, and ultimately to employers. And this is what this event is largely about, right? To kind of foment this type of dialogue, whereby us as an organization, but also our ecosystem, can exchange, ask the right questions, find out from some key thought and opinion leaders, some of which are on this panel today, of where we're going in the European Union, where we're going in the Eurozone, in terms of cybersecurity skills, which is today's specific topic. What did we clearly learn in 2020 so far? That the digital divide is in fact widening. Whether it's for the average citizen, SMEs, cities and governments, or education, we have seen that the people who were not yet prepared to make the switch into a digitally empowered way of functioning, where had a lot of difficulties this year in being able to maintain operations, whether that was a SME in agriculture or even in manufacturing, whether that was schools, the public school system. So obviously, many of you know that Cisco, through its WebEx offerings, tried to help in a lot of different countries by offering our WebEx offering for free for schools to be able to allow teachers to remain connected. But cities and government, it impacts the way we govern our cities today. So as an organization, we want to ensure that the digital transformation is as inclusive as possible. And the best way to do that is in part through events like this one, where we're able to bring everybody together and foment a discussion. I wanted to kind of stop because as I was preparing for this meeting, I stumbled upon, of course, the ENISA report from a couple weeks ago, which I think is a great report. If you haven't had the time, please take the time to just read through it. They have an executive summary that's high level, but that really kind of highlights some of the key conclusions they had. And I think it's some of the key things that I was able to extract from that report highlight why this event today is important and why cybersecurity in terms of jobs for tomorrow is going to continue to be a very relevant skill. So the top cybersecurity threats from 2019 to 2020, malware, web-based attacks, phishing, web application attacks, and spam. What's interesting is that in the top 5, we automatically have these 3 that are directly concerning any internet user or any connected device user, right? This is an imminent threat to any individual user within any country who's connected to the internet, which means that at the end of the day, the notion of cybersecurity and needing to ramp up cybersecurity goes beyond just the professional sphere. It's also about empowering the average citizen to have the knowledge to protect themselves, protect their data, protect their confidential information, and have a safe internet experience. And I think that one of the advantages of a lot of the action that's been promoted both on a European level but also on a national level, and the advantage of having the Cybersecurity Month, is that we're able to raise awareness more and more amongst our citizens of what are some of even the basic kind of reflexes and habits to have when they're using the internet to ensure that they protect themselves. One of the key ones I wanted to stop on, though, and I think I'll close my quick talk with this, is the new infrastructure paradigm. What is really important to kind of highlight with the COVID-19 pandemic is that a lot of people, like myself, were able to work from home, or were incited to work from home. Now, this is a massive advantage for me because I've been able to see my newborn daughter grow up, and so I'm a very happy man for it. However, for a lot of companies, large companies and SMEs alike, this has represented a unique challenge for everyone in the IT department because we've effectively multiplied the interfaces and the connected objects that need to be secured, right? That need to be guaranteed where the information and the privileged data of those companies can flow without being threatened of being hacked, right? So this represents a whole new facet of complication. And as you guys know as much as me, the work from home is this is the beginning of a new trend that's only maybe going to accelerate in a lot of different cities. Why? Because there are, of course, climate change considerations with not having so many workers in cars, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of different ramifications that I think we haven't yet understood fully that are going to come out of this work from home. And those companies that haven't been able to do it yet, I think are going to gradually continue to push to find those solutions. The second thing is thousands of employees are now requiring assistance and coaching in basic cybersecurity practices. Why? Because they've never had to connect outside of a secure, centralized environment before. And this means that for SMEs in Europe in particular, there is a very steep learning curve. Why? Because as we go forward, these skills are going to be kind of a everyday requirement for our companies to remain competitive in Europe. And this takes me to my last point, which is it's an emerging challenge for SMEs in Europe. As SMEs in Europe look to grow, look to export, look to extend their activity internationally, the importance of maintaining basic, strong cybersecurity skills amongst the workforce, particularly amongst their IT professionals, can very well be the difference between success and failure as they grow as a company. So these are kind of some key points that I was able to pick out. And of course, you know, it's a lot of information, it's a lot to digest, so what does this all mean? Thankfully, I'm not the one who's going to be able to help us decipher kind of all this today. We have a very high-powered panel of experts who are going to be able to help us out, which are Ewelina Jelenkowska-Luka, sorry for butchering the name. Ewelina, I want to thank you also because I believe you have taken time off from your vacation to join us today, so a big thank you to you for having taken the time. PTO is relatively sacred in Cisco, so the fact that you gave us some of yours is a very welcome contribution, and thank you very much. Domenico Ferrara is also joining us. We also have Stefan Hendricks, who will be giving a presentation, and Fabio Floro as well. I will present each presenter a little bit before we go in to their presentation. Of course, I will begin with Ewelina. Ewelina, I'm going to just present you very quickly, and then I'll hand over to you if that's okay. So Ewelina is the head of communication at DG Connect in the European Commission, and she will be presenting the strategy of the European Commission on digital competency, and she will also be talking about an EU survey, which is going to be distributed after the event, that is aimed at teachers in order to understand which tools and topics are the most wanted by teachers to teach digital matters. This is, I think, one of the more important actions that can be undertaken by the Commission right now and by DG Connect, as it's our educators who have a very, very large role to play in the navigating of the post-world, I think, as digital skills continue to grow in importance. So with that, Ewelina, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, over to you then.
Okay, I'll try to share my slides. Can you see them?
Yes, we can, Ewelina, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so, well, probably not surprisingly, I will also start with where Armando started, which is by saying the obvious. The coronavirus pandemic has forced us all to transfer much of our lives into the digital dimension. Wait, I'll try to see if I can move that with my mouse. Okay. So those who had skills and who were used to it were naturally digital and they were in their element, but it put into very hard trial those who were less familiar with digital technologies. And Armando mentioned the companies, but that of course is also valid for people, or even more valid for people. Now, we all know that in the digital age, we can pay our bills online, we can make appointments, we can order favorite food and get it immediately. But what we have realized under pandemics is that actually a lot of jobs and schooling can be done fully online. Now, of course, that doesn't give us everything. I mean, the social dimension and human contact is still something. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can, we can.
Sorry, I squeezed my something, you see, speaking of challenge. So, so of course, the human dimension is not there and we still need human contact, but many of us were still able to keep our lives going. Many of us, but not all of us. Now, as you will see from this graph, in the digital age, we still have a lot of Europeans who lack basic digital skills. And those people were struggling to stay part of the society once the society moved fully digital the moment we all went into lockdown. Because as you will see, our digital skills in Europe leave really space for improvement. 58% of EU citizens have at least basic digital skills, which means, of course, that 42 do not have, and only 1/3 has more than basic digital skills. That's really not a lot. Now, this data comes from a digital economy and society index so-called DESI, which my Director General, so DG Connect, is publishing every year around June, May, June. And this is an index with which we are trying to monitor how digital is Europe and how digital is both the performance of Europe overall, but also progress made by member states. Now, we measure 4 other areas. So we measure digital skills, as you already see, but we also measure connectivity, the use of internet services, integration of digital technology into our lives, and digital public services. Now, young generation is, of course, a little bit better off than the older ones. We're much better off for what concerns digital skills, but still, even those whom we like to call digital natives, in reality, not all have basic digital skills. So if you look at the number here, 82% of young people have at least basic skills. Again, translated the other way around, almost 20% does not have basic digital skills. And if you think of the fact that today large parts of the jobs require basic digital skills, and many jobs, and especially in the future, they will be requiring more than basic skills, this is quite alarming. But looking at the bright side, it also signals that there is quite a potential ready to be unlocked. So how do we do that? The key to unlocking, oh, now I lost my thing. Yes, sorry. Now the key, or one of the keys to unlock it, is of course digital education. Now, in the European Commission, we do recognize the value of digital education and the significant potential that it has. Now, we also believe that it is imperative that citizens today are equipped with at least basic skills, but more than basic skills, in order to seize the opportunities and also to stay in Europe. We actually have a lot of other data which shows us that today many companies are looking for competencies. So you have a certain paradox, because you have high unemployment, but also a lot of posts that very often require digital skills that cannot be filled because we don't have competencies in Europe. So all this is a mismatch that we need to close. Now, you may know or may not know, but education is a fully national competence. So there is not much that the Commission can do, or the institutions, the EU can do, on purely legislative level. But that does not mean that we are ready to sit passively and watch. To the contrary, we are ready to play our part, and part of this part is precisely helping the member states to see what the challenge is, to share best practice, and to foster what are good habits, and to try to find European way to tackle the issue we have. Now, not even a month ago, on 30th of September, we have published what you see now on the slide, which is the Digital Education Action Plan 2021-27. Now, this action plan builds already on the pre-existing one, but it has got a lot of new proposals, a lot of new ideas, and it is aimed to reset education and training for the digital age, pointing at high quality, at inclusivity, and at accessibility of education. Now, what we want to foster, as you will see on the slide, is on one hand, high-performing digital education ecosystem, and on the other hand, enhanced digital competences. Now, I will only mention a few actions, but I have put a link to that education plan, and I hope that it might be something that could be interesting for you, because a lot of actions that we propose could actually or intend to involve you as educators, you as teachers. So one of the things that we want to do is, for example, launch a strategic dialogue with member states, precisely because this is a national competence. So member states need to be a crucial part of this. Now, we would like to develop a European digital education content framework. So something where we can share content We would like to launch a connectivity for school initiative to really help the schools. We would like to develop a European digital skills certificate that could be recognized by the government, the employers, other stakeholders, and that could prove the CV. And then scale up digital opportunity traineeship and female participation in STEM. STEM, I'm sure you know what it is. And these are just a few actions. Now, we will also create a European digital education hub where we would like to precisely foster collaboration and synergies between the policy areas that are relevant for digital education. We would also like to create a network of national advisory services and to strengthen the dialogue between the stakeholders, the private, the public, and you are very important stakeholders in that process. Now, these are only a few actions. I will not bore you any further. I will just mention one very pragmatic thing. I took it as an example, which you could very, very concretely already use. This is something that has been launched already for a moment. It's one of those initiatives. It's called Selfie. It has nothing to do with the photos that you do. It's just a funny acronym. We really like acronyms in the Commission, you probably know. So it's a self-reflection. I have to read that. It's a self-reflection on effective learning by fostering the use of innovative educational technology. That's why it's Selfie. No, but to be more serious, it's a free tool that can help you discover or help your school discover your digital potential, the school's digital potential, and improve how it can, how it uses already technology for teaching and learning. It's really easy to use. It's customizable. It is available in different languages. So if you don't know it, if you have not seen it, again, I have provided a little link that you will be able to see, and maybe it will be something that will be interesting for you. Now, with this action plan, what we have tried to do is we have tried to respond to the needs and to seize the momentum that was created by the pandemic. Because indeed, not everything was really bad. This was a momentum that showed how important digital is. And the Commission published a consultation, a public consultation on digital education. We kept it open between 18th of June and 4th of September. And we had quite a lot of replies. And it was very interesting to see that nearly all respondents, that's very rare that you get such a number, 95% of respondents believed that the pandemic actually marked a point of no return. So I think we have all said it and we keep repeating it, that this pandemic has taught us something and we should learn the lesson. 60% of those interviewed said that, or those of the respondents said that actually they had never used any distance learning before coronavirus, and now they have. And the same, more or less the same 60% also felt that they had improved under pandemics. They probably didn't have the choice. And more than 50% would like to continue improving. So there is definitely appetite for digital knowledge, and there is need for innovation in education. Now, need in innovation in very, very different dimensions. First of all, I think you will agree that a one-way ex cathedra education is over. Our students today expect to be engaged, expect education to be interactive, and digital is giving that opportunity. Young people want to participate, they want to have a say, they are looking for interactive ways to engage them, and they want, probably social media have opened a whole new mentality in the current generation, where they want things to happen from their level, from grassroots movement. This is probably why, or this probably explains why our initiative that we launched, again, DG Connect has launched that initiative several years ago, has a growing success year by year. So every October, we hold a code week. I can't say we organize because actually we are just bringing those initiatives together. These are initiatives that are happening all over Europe. It is really a grassroots initiative. You will be surprised it's called Code Week, but if you see the dates from 10th to 25th, it has just been closed. It's actually 2 weeks. But it's because it has been such a response that we just follow it. So the participants, and this year, of course, it was fully online, which means that there were also very interesting online activities. Some of them you still can see. So again, if you have not participated yet, although I think that last year's statistics already said that 1/3 of the schools have participated to the initiative. So I hope that there is quite a high chance that at least some of you know Code Week. But if you don't, again, I provided you with a link. I would really recommend that you go and see it, and maybe you want to join the initiative next year. So now what does this Code Week shows us? On one hand, it shows us that digital has got huge potential. It gives new possibilities which we should explore, new instruments, new dimension, but it also brings a new need. We must teach our students to remain vigilant online, both in terms of behaviors, but also security. I will not touch on behaviors because it would take another hour probably, and you are much more expert than I am. But the security is something, again, about which we are very sensitive. Cybersecurity is now considered the second global risk for 2020 decade. It's according to the World Economic Forum, and it's the second just below the climate change. But more about this, you will hear from an expert, a colleague of mine who will be speaking after me. What I would like only to raise here is to briefly concentrate on the need to raise awareness. And as you certainly know, because this initiative is part of that month, we are we are using the opportunity of a cybersecurity month, which is always October, to hold a European-wide campaign, which is dedicated to promoting cybersecurity among citizens and organizations. And the aim is to inform, of course, and to share good practices. So it is, again, a rather grassroots movement, again, something that is gaining power every year. And the official mottos of this year, Cybersecurity Month, was think before you click. So this is what you see. And a lot of different events, webinars were organized across Europe that were discussing different aspects of cybersecurity. So the risks, the dangers, the scams, the phishing, the hacking, but also the digital skills, so the digital cyber skills, and the knowledge which we need to sometimes really not fall prey online. Again, here on all the slides, I provide you with the links. In the previous slide, I forgot to mention that there you could also see a link to the public consultation if you were interested to see what the respondents replied to different questions. Now, all this is a huge challenge for teachers. I realize it. I think that you are facing multiple challenges, which are on one hand linked to the need of following and adapting yourself and learning yourself on this ever-evolving digital society. And then you need to integrate a lot of those aspects into your day-to-day work, also because your students are sometimes more digital than you are, so it's another challenge. But sometimes they think they are digital, but they don't really grasp the full dimension. Now, transferring your knowledge to your students and preparing them for the jobs which maybe today don't exist, that's quite a challenge, because sometimes we really, I have 3 teenage kids, and I must tell you that I am sometimes wondering, what will be the skills that they will need tomorrow if really you know, 10 years ago, 30% of new jobs, we had no idea they would exist. So, so what do you teach them? And how do you do this? Well, this is a big question. Nobody has got the answer. We can only guess, of course. And we can guess it taking also the topics of the future, like blockchain, artificial intelligence, the economy of data, and all sorts of new topics that actually we are lucky enough to connect. Which is also why we thought that maybe if we brought our forces together, if we joined forces with you, maybe we could somehow be stronger. Maybe we could bring some of our expertise, and you could help us to understand what is it that you would need from us, or how we could be helpful in your task of educating the new generations. That is why, for this express reasons, we have prepared a little survey. So this survey was actually prepared for you expressly. It has been published just at the opportunity of this event, although, of course, if you pass the word and spread it and ask your colleagues who are not present in the event to fill it in, we will be very grateful. What we have tried to make it very short, but to help us understand what kind of support you would need from us, and see, of course, how much we will be able to deliver on what you're expecting. But I will be really very grateful if after this event you take, I don't think it will take you more than 5 minutes, have a look at the survey, and maybe within a week or so, if you could fill it in, we will analyze it, and maybe we will have a follow-up to this meeting. Now, I expressly kept myself rather short, because I hope that the rest of the time that I have, maybe I can answer a few questions from the public, unless Gianna tells me that I have already been over my time. Thank you for your attention.
Evelina, we have one question, and if you are okay with that, I will leave the question at the end of the event. But at the meantime, I will pass it to you through the Q&A tool, and you can answer the other way on chat directly, and so that we can continue to our webinar. But we have a question, so I will pass it to you to the Q&A. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to stop sharing the screen, but that might be a challenge. Let's try if I can, because I don't, some things have completely disappeared. Can you stop sharing for me, or wait, share?
There you go.
Maybe
I did it.
Wonderful.
I did it.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you,
Evelina and Gianna, there's been a request if we can post the link to the survey directly in the Q&A chat for people to be able to click on straight right now and answer as they participate in the event. So I'll leave it to you guys as I present our next panelist, which is Domenico Ferrara, who's so the colleague of Evelina at the DigiConnect, a policy analyst at the DigiConnect, and he wants to deepen the topic of the European Commission strategy for cybersecurity, talking about the blueprint, the NIS Directive, linking these topics with the competencies that the European Commission is looking for. So Domenico, it's a pleasure to have, let's say, an expert and a guide in this process with us today, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Armand. I hope you can hear me and see my screen.
We can.
Okay, great. So thank you very much. So as you said in your introduction, I work as a policy officer in the cybersecurity technologies and capacity building of the European Commission at DigiConnect. And today I would like to give you an overview of the main EU cybersecurity policies, and try to see how they can, let's say, create new opportunities in the field of skills and education. So, let's move on. Okay, so needless to say, the digital domain is a clear priority of the Commission. According to Mrs. von der Leyen, this is going to be the digital decade for Europe. And this means also clear goals linked to that in the field of improving our connectivity, improving our skills, our privacy, and also our cybersecurity. And that means that Europe is ready to invest 20% of the Next Generation EU program in digital. And of course, cybersecurity is going to be part of this. So what are the main challenges in cybersecurity that we see from the Commission viewpoint? So this is a non-exhaustive list of challenges. So we see the need to improve the capacity building at national level and our resilience, our collective resilience at European level. We need more sharing of information across member states' authorities and private actors. We need to increase the security across our digital supply chain, avoid as much as possible the reuse of faulty codes when developing new software. We also see a growing security, or let's say a growing security concern out of new technology, such as AI, IoT, 5G, simply because these new technologies, basically they increase the attack surface. So on one side, they obviously bring new opportunities, but of course, there is also a security element to take into account. And specifically, the advent of AI can, of course, be used for cybersecurity purposes, to increase our cybersecurity, to enhance it, but it can also be used by the bad guys that can easily perpetrate cybersecurity attacks through AI. Needless to say, there is a well-documented literature on the lack of skills in this field. There is a clear mismatch between the market demand and, let's say, the offer of cybersecurity professionals. SMEs are obviously a vulnerable actor because they may dedicate less resources to cybersecurity than big corporations. There is also a need to bring, let's say, innovation of research labs much closer to the market. So we need to do more in terms of commercializing of R&D for cybersecurity solutions. And also, from the market side, we need to boost the uptake of cybersecurity solutions. And the final challenge is also to align what are our priority in terms of policies with the research needs and vice versa. So that is, in a way, a snapshot of the situation and the key challenges that we face. So what has the EU done to counter or to deal with this situation in the field of cybersecurity? So we have started to deal with cyber in 2013 with the first strategy on cybersecurity. A few years later, the EU has adopted the first cybersecurity law, the NIS Directive, which entered into force in 2016. And a year later, we stepped up our, let's say, effort. We came up with a cybersecurity package, which includes the blueprint. I will talk about it in a while. The Cybersecurity Act, which entered into force in 2019. And also in 2018, we have proposed a cybersecurity competence center. So today I would like to, let's say, go a bit in details on the policy initiatives that I have highlighted in this slide and see how they can be relevant for the field of skills and education. So we start with the Cybersecurity Act, which is the most recent regulation. It is basically composed of two main pillars. It renews the mandate of ENISA, the Cybersecurity Agency of Europe, based in Athens, and it also introduced a voluntary system for cybersecurity certification. So a few words on ENISA. ENISA, let's say through the new mandate, it has a number of tasks also key for the field of awareness raising and skills have been confirmed, meaning the organization of the Cybersecurity Month. ENISA will remain in charge of that. It will have a key role in the secretariat of the NIS Cisco Network. I will talk about that in a while. It will continue to produce valuable reports such as the threat landscape, which is becoming now a reference in the field, and it will step up its effort in the field of in the organization of cyber exercises, cyber challenges, and so on and so forth. On top of that, the new ENISA will have key roles in the field of operational cooperation among member states, and it will also have a key role in cybersecurity certification, which is the second pillar of the Cybersecurity Act. So the European Cybersecurity Certification Framework, in a nutshell, is a voluntary system at European level, which enables the creation of EU schemes for ICT products, processes, and services. So the main idea behind that is to counter the emergence of national certification schemes, which would have created a scenario of fragmentation of national schemes which are not mutually recognized among themselves. As well, basically, the idea is to have a common scheme with resulting certificates that can be used by vendors or end users across EU member states. As I said, it is a voluntary system. It is also internationally looking because every scheme should rely as much as possible on international standards. And it is also a risk-based approach because it includes a certification at various level of security or various level of assurance, as we call it. So this it can be very interesting to look at in the field of when it comes to the tie with skills and education, because it creates a need for skilled professionals which are able to carry out testing of ICT products, services, and processes. Professionals who are able to conduct on-site audits at manufacturer's facility, for example, and overall professionals that have a good understanding and knowledge of conformity assessment in the area of IT. But that's the Cybersecurity Act. Moving on, I would like to say a few words also regarding the NIS Directive, Network and Information System Directive, which, as I said, is the first EU cybersecurity law. It basically operates along three, let's say, work streams. It aims to create greater capabilities of member states. So it requires member states to have a national NIS authority, what we call a competent NIS authority, a national CSIRT, a computer security incident response team to counter cyber attacks in national critical infrastructure. And also it obliges member states to have national strategies in the field of cybersecurity. So that's for the capability side. On the cooperation front, the NIS Directive also creates cooperation structures for member states and for the CSER, the emergency team. So member states are represented in the cooperation group at ministerial level, and basically they are, let's say, they meet regularly to discuss strategic priorities in the area of cybersecurity, and they also meet at more technical level, as I said, at CSER level, to share information about new cyber threats. I would say that the NIS Directive also introduced a risk management culture in member states, because it requests member states to identify the operator of essential services in key areas, energy, healthcare, finance, and so on and so forth. To identify digital service providers, search engines, for example. And it requests that these operators and digital service providers have appropriate security measures, and that they notify to the competent authority major incidents. So the directive will be reviewed by the end of the year. And what it is interesting, in my view, is to consider that, so as I said, there are a number of requirements for operators of essential services and digital service providers, which create a demand, if you want, for professionals to support these actors in regulatory compliance and in reporting activities to the competent authority. So this is also something to consider, or when it comes to the link between how policy can create opportunities in the area of skills and education. So OES, operator of essential service and digital service providers, will need more and more like this type of professionals. So the next policy initiative I would like to talk about is the blueprint, which comes in the form of a recommendation of from the European Commission to member states in order to promote a coordinated response to large incident and crises that may have cascading effect across member states. So basically the idea is to have some sort of coordination when small member states or large member states that may need help is hit by a cyber crisis. The blueprint is composed of 3 levels of coordination. Coordination at technical level among the computer emergency services, so in order for them to give an effective response. Cooperation at operational level. This basically promotes a coordination of shared situational awareness reports in member states' authority dealing with cybersecurity, and also at political level. And the idea is to foster also political coordination and coordinate on a common messaging when it comes to communicating to the public. So the blueprint has been tested, in a way, during a number of cybersecurity exercises, the so-called Cyber Europe exercises, for example, that ENISA organizes with member states and private stakeholders. And there is also a dedicated work stream group on which basically brings together again national authorities on that may share best practices on how they implement at national level the recommendation, the blueprint recommendation. So that is the policy. And when it comes to skills, so basically, in my view, the skills required to implement the blueprint, they mainly relate to the broader area of crisis management and technical handling of cyber incidents. So, for example, there will be a like need for professionals that are able to identify, analyze device countermeasures in order to tackle large cybersecurity incidents that might have happened in member states. So this speaks more to the, let's say, response side of cybersecurity. The last policy initiative that I would like to talk about is the European Cybersecurity Technology and Innovation Ecosystem created by the regulation that was proposed in 2018. So this is still, let's say, there are still negotiations ongoing on this regulation. So we expect to finalize this proposal by the end of the year under the German presidency. Let me say a few words on this proposal. So basically, the idea behind this is to create a competence center at European level that is able to manage and implement the funds foreseen for cybersecurity that will stem from the future funding programs, which are Horizon Europe and the Digital Europe program. Okay. The idea is to, let's say, pool the resources of member states in a single European center, which will implement the fund for cybersecurity. The European Center will also manage the network of national competence centers, which will have, let's say, a responsibility to, they will act basically as a national contact point vis-à-vis the European Competence Center. And these two layers, so the European layer and the national layer, will be supported by a competence community, a community of stakeholders, which will feed with their input the agenda of the competence center and the national the network of national centers. There is also a skills component here. So apart from the implementation of cybersecurity grants, the center should also complement the efforts of member states in the field of education and skills, for example, by developing cybersecurity curricula in civilian and military educational systems. The center can also support the alignment of professional cybersecurity certification programs, and in theory, if the proposal of the Commission is confirmed, it can also provide a platform for cybersecurity training. So, you know, whenever there is a need to organize specialized trainings, member states and the stakeholder of community could use the competence center to run that training. That is the idea. So there are 4 pilots that are funded by Horizon 2020 that are currently operating, and that are basically helping to prepare the ground for this competence center once this competence center will be out there running. So these 4 pilots, they bring together, as you can see, a large number of partners across and a large number of member states. And so far, they've also had a couple of deliverables that relate to skills and education. For example, the CyberSec for You has carried out a study mapping cybersecurity master's programs in the EU, and with a view to look for gaps in the current educational offer. And the Sparta pilot has produced a methodology for developing innovative cybersecurity curricula, always on the basis of the gap identified. And my last slide concerns regards the financial support that EU is providing and will provide, because there is also something interesting to say about skills. We know that currently we have Horizon Europe. In the future we will have Horizon Europe, which will replace the current Horizon 2020. And we will have Digital Europe program, for which 2 billion euros have already been earmarked. At least this is the Commission proposal, which has not been, let's say, validated yet. But the Commission proposed 2 billion euros for cybersecurity, a part of which dedicated to skills. And the type of proposals that under this program the Commission is looking for may regard ways to monitor the skills needed by industry, the development of innovative scenarios for sector-specific exercises, and the development of cyber ranges for practicing responses to cyber responses and reporting of cyber incidents. As you can see, this speaks very much to the blueprint and the NIS Directive that I've talked to you about. Few words on the current programs. We have Horizon 2020, but also we have Connecting Europe facilities. There is still a call open until the 5th of November with 10.5 million available. And there is also possibility to, among the various objectives of this call, there is also possibility to present or submit proposals aiming to increase or enhance the skills of staff in the field of cybersecurity certification, and also to have funding to run specialized trainings. Typically, certification is known to be a lengthy and costly process, namely because the evaluation of during the certification of testing can take time. So the idea is to have proposals that can shorten the evaluation, the duration of the evaluation, and to have more dynamic and agile evaluation methodology. So this is what the Commission is currently looking for. I've put the link in case you are interested or you want to pass on the information to people that might be of interest. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I will attend the conference until the end. So if you have questions, do not hesitate.
Thank you so much, Domenico. You know, it's a rare thing to be able to have such a complete overview on what's happening on a European level. You know, as much as we as European citizens always, you know, try to say, well, we want to know more, we want to know more, we often don't take the time or don't have the access to this level of expertise. So it's quite a special moment to be able to have you with us. So thank you very much. I was really interested to kind of hear how all the different policy angle and the policy developments are gradually going to create the demand for cybersecurity professionals, whether that's in the public administration or even evolving in the private sector. Thank you for the little call for proposal at the end. I think that's for people like us, as you well know, it's always interesting for us to be able to get people in our ecosystem to get excited about these types of call for proposals, because I think that our teachers, our schools, and our partners always have meaningful contributions to make. And so thank you so much for your presentation. We are going to move on to our next presenter, who is Stefan Hendricks, who's the Senior Vice President for Security at NTT. Stefan's key focus areas are to translate the technology, people, and process elements of our security solutions into tangible business value. This it's an outcome-focused approach that puts his services in high demand among NTT strategic clients. So what is the great advantage of having Stefan here today, and thank you so much, Stefan, for taking time with us, is it's going to give us a little bit a kind of viewpoint from the employer's perspective. So we've had kind of the global EU policy approach, And here we have the unique opportunity to be able to exchange with somebody who's actually beginning to look at, okay, so what does this mean in terms of my needs as an employer? And I think that whether we're an educator, we're a educational program provider such as ourselves, or a simple learner within any of the programs or any of the schools in Europe, it's important to understand what the job providers and what the employers are looking for. So Stefan, thank you so much for your time today, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Armand. Can you hear me all right? And can you see my first slide?
We can indeed.
Fantastic. So thank you everyone on the call for taking some time to listen to us. So I work for NTT. NTT stands for Nippon Telegraph and Telecom. It is a Japanese company, but we are a global company. We just started in Japan about 100 years ago. We are over 300,000 employees, so we're quite a large company with global revenues of over 100 billion. And we are one of the largest cybersecurity players in the global market. And today it is my pleasure to talk a bit about the state of cybersecurity and what's going on in the market and why we need people to help us in that fight against what we call the dark side. And I'll talk about the dark side a lot in the next 20-25 minutes. So hopefully this will be interesting for you. I'm in charge of our European business as the Senior Vice President for cybersecurity. And just before we start, just one slide on what we do in cybersecurity. So I have over 2,000 colleagues in my division around the world that work on cybersecurity every day. We operate in 57 countries, and we have over 4,000 clients that trust us with their cybersecurity challenges. We also invest a lot in R&D, over $100 million a year, and we have 7 R&D centers and 6 security operating centers where we monitor and manage cybersecurity 24/7 for our clients. So why is cybersecurity becoming increasingly important? Well, what we're seeing in the last 20 years that I've been into cybersecurity now, is an interesting trend. On one hand, connectivity is growing exponentially. We all know about bandwidth. I remember when I started in IT 30 years ago, having a 56K modem was something quite exciting. It was very low bandwidth, and we used terminals that most young people can't even imagine, right? So fast forward 30 years, we've got megabits, if not gigabits of internet access speeds now. 5G coming up. So, the speed is there. The connectivity is also going exponentially with over 50 billion things being connected to the internet now. So that's all great. The problem is that the cybersecurity exposure is also dramatically getting more complicated because of that hyperconnectivity. So public organizations and private companies like ourselves, we are of course stepping up our efforts in defending against those threats, and the regulators are following, but at a slower pace. However, the regulators and even the people that are defending against cyber threats have a hard time in keeping up. I mean, that gap is increasing, and the challenge is becoming bigger every day. One of my colleague speakers here said that there's a 3.5 million people short in cybersecurity worldwide. I confirm that number. In Europe, we're looking at a 500,000 people shortage. So if you want to have an almost certainty on landing a job when you graduate from university or college, I definitely recommend going into cybersecurity because it is a domain where there's a massive demand. We ourselves have hundreds of open positions just at NTT looking for young grads and also senior people, of course, to complement our 2,000 plus experts that we have globally. I think this was also said, cybercrime is one of the greatest risks in the world today. In the most recent World Economic Forum report, it was highlighted as the second biggest risk after climate change, and I'm sure pandemic will now be one of the top ones, but cybercrime definitely is top 3, and it is a priority for the European Commission, as you've heard from the previous speaker. It's also a massive priority for, I would say, the private industry, and we're seeing a lot of demand and traction in that space. The reason why we're getting increased interest is because a lot of well, basically, pretty much everyone is accelerating its digital transformation. With COVID-19, we have been working from home, well, at least the vast majority of us, because we had to, and we kind of were thrown into that vortex of digital acceleration and transformation, having to, you know, basically reshape the way we do work, we get work done, and using tools like WebEx, like we're all doing today, which gives me the opportunity to talk to over 300 of you on this great medium that Cisco is putting at our disposal here today. So a nice example of digital transformation. Now, when we're looking at digital transformation projects, cybersecurity becomes increasingly important. And the reason why that is simply illustrated by this next visual here. In the old days, and I'm talking like 10 to 15 years ago, cybersecurity was very much like a castle and moat paradigm. So you had the hostile internet, which is, you know, on the picture here, you see the moats, right? So the water around the castle, and then of course the fields from where the attackers can come to invade the castle. That castle was defending the crown jewels, right? So the king lived in a castle, he had the crown jewels, and those were protected by those heavy walls. So this is what we call the perimeter, right? So perimeter security was a big thing, and still is, by the way, but it's no longer sufficient in today's world. The reason why that is if you penetrate the walls, you know, if you either go through the bridge or in modern days, you might use unexpected forms of attacks, like landing with a helicopter in the middle of the castle. You can get to those crown jewels very quickly because they are very ill defended. Once you get in, you get to the key assets. In this case, the you know, crown jewels, right? In a modern world, things are much more complicated, and we're evolving towards what I call the airport model. You've all been in an airport. It's a pretty silent place nowadays, but it used to be, you know, very busy pre-COVID. In an airport, access is granted based on identity, right? So if I'm a pilot, I'll have a special badge, and I probably can use other entries in most airports and get to the planes, get in front in the cockpit and start up the plane and take off, right? And that I can do that because I'm a pilot. So my identity says that I'm a pilot, I have the credentials, and I have the right to fly the plane and use certain parts of the airport that are privileged, i.e. only accessible for pilots. If I'm a passenger, like most of us on this call, I assume, we go through the normal, you know, security lanes, etc., that we all know and sometimes hate, but they are necessary, and those security checks are done, right? So in the digital world, and with enterprises and public organizations digitally transforming, the same evolution is taking place. We're seeing much more identity-centric security, so the access that you're being given to information resources is more and more identity-based, rather than in the old paradigm where you had you know, the walls of the fortress, and if you could cross those walls by hacking into the fortress, you were basically in, and you could see every single information asset. So what are we doing in cybersecurity? Well, cybersecurity is essentially about three things. It's about the C, the I, and the A, or the CIA triad, as we call it. It's about confidentiality, so we obviously want to keep things secret, and we want to, you know, typically encrypt information resources for, or at least protect them, and protect them against, you know, prying eyes, so people that want to actually look at our company secrets, for example, making sure that that doesn't happen. We want to obviously also make sure that systems stay available, which is what the A stands for, because if your e-banking application is down, you're not happy as a client, so availability is part of overall information security. And then there's integrity as well. Again, to stay in the e-banking example, if I do a wire transfer of 100 euros and there's somebody in the middle between me and the bank changing that to 10,000 euros and also changing the account number to a Cayman Island number, for example, that would be very worthwhile to the hacker, but I would not be amused as a client, of course, right? So the integrity of the information is the third thing that we are watching for. So what we're doing in cyber is basically looking at risk, right? Risk is the key thing in cybersecurity, and there's four ways you can deal with risk. You can avoid it, you can reduce it, you can transfer it, or you can accept it, okay? So cybersecurity cybersecurity is typically about risk reduction, because avoiding the risk is not always possible. Actually, it's rarely possible in IT. Transferring it sometimes works. Accepting is what we, typically don't want to do. So risk remediation or reduction is something that we typically do in cyber. And if you then define risk as the product of likelihood and impact, you get this kind of table, right? So likelihood is the probability at which an event will happen, right? That goes from very unlikely to very likely. For example, a fire in a private home is fairly unlikely. However, if your house, is set on fire, and if you don't have fire extinguishers or fire alarm, the impact is severe, right? Because the whole house will burn down. Okay, so that's a very simple example of how people actually look at risk, right? So what we do in cyber is read risk. We understand risk, and then we apply what we call security controls to remediate that risk. Okay, so a firewall, for example, which is a concept that most people understand, is something that will protect your network from the hostile internet. And the internet is quite hostile, and I'll give you a couple of examples in a second. It's a very, dangerous place to be, and there's a lot of adversaries and people with very bad intentions out there, and protecting private enterprises, but also our governments and our citizens against the dangers that the internet brings to our daily lives is what we do in cybersecurity. Now, what do attackers want to basically focus on? Why would they attack enterprises or government or private citizens? Well, in the past, it was typically about notoriety or demonstrating against things like animal testing, which we call hacktivists. Those were the people in an attic having noble or less noble intentions, but they were in for the fame, right? Some people were starting to understand that if you can steal intellectual property that was digitized, like blueprints of airplanes, for example, and we're talking 15 years ago now, 10, 15 years ago, that is worthwhile because you can sell it on the dark markets, right, on the black market. In the last 10 years, that has radically shifted. People are hacking now because of two things. They're either in it for the money, and there's a lot of money made in cybersecurity. It's estimated that the total global revenue of the not cybersecurity, but the hacking business, if you can call that a business, is over $6 billion, which is more than the money that is being made with illicit drugs, right? The reason why there's so much money being made is because it's quite a popular segment for criminals. So cybercrime is quite a lucrative segment. If you look at robbing a bank, for example, there's two ways of robbing a bank. You could either buy a riot gun and a ski hat and then enter the bank and then rob the money in the classical way, which of course is risky because you can get shot. There's cameras and you can get end up in jail, of course, right? So it's not a very good business plan, so to say. The more clever way would be to do a cyber hack of that bank and steal the money digitally, and that's exactly what happened to the Bank of Bangladesh, for example, a couple of years ago, when people hacked into the SWIFT system. SWIFT being the organization that allows international money transfers between about 10,000 banks. So it was not the SWIFT system itself that was hacked, just for the record, but it was the Bank of Bangladesh's IT protection systems that were shielding the SWIFT system. So people got into the Bank of Bangladesh and they wired $80 million to a number of offshore accounts, and they didn't have to buy riot guns or rob or kill anyone, right? So a very efficient way of stealing money. So hackers are in it for the money. Some hackers are in it for nation-state interests, and there's a number of nation-states systematically hacking into other states, and I'll show an example in a second. A new trend is ransomware. You've probably heard of WannaCry. What happens there is that your laptop or your critical server gets encrypted, and then you have to pay for the key, right? If you don't pay for the key, typically your company will stop because it's very hard to continue working without digital assets nowadays. So you can either pay or restore the systems if you are lucky that your backups have not been encrypted. And what we're also seeing is that people are actually threatening to publish information on the internet, right? So what they do is they hack into the organization, they copy sensitive data, and then they encrypt the whole thing. And then they say, if you don't pay the ransomware, you will not just be out of production, right? Because there's nothing you can do anymore. But we will also publish the information. So very nasty trend, I would say, in that on the dark side, but very productive again. It has turned out to be the most lucrative way of doing cybercrime. Even better than robbing banks, as it turns out. There's more money made with ransomware than anything else. Now, if you think this is difficult to do, it's actually not too hard. At least buying the tools to hack into people is not too difficult. There's a place called the dark web, which is a bit like Amazon, but obviously highly illegal, and you can buy pretty much everything from guns to poison to everything else you can imagine, and that includes things like malware generators. And what you're seeing here is a piece of software that you can buy for $40. And this thing allows you to start a DDoS attack, a distributed denial of service attack, on a victim of choice. This tool is called Black Energy. It was built in 2014, and it was used in 2015 to take out about 230,000 families in a part of Ukraine. The way this happened is that hackers got into the laptops of the people that are controlling the electrical grid, and then basically shut down all of the substations, which are essential technical elements in a electric grid, right? So if you shut down the substations, all the electricity in the homes basically goes blank, or black if you want. So this was one of the first examples of a cyber attack on a physical network. And that's what we call an IT to OT attack. OT being the networks that are being used for electrical grids or for connecting robots in a plant, for example. And that is quite a dangerous trend, because the same networks are being used for traffic lights, for example. So imagine I could put all the lights in Brussels, where I live, on green, right, in the midst of an evening rush hour. That would immediately result in hundreds of car accidents, right? So the protection of OT networks is an increasingly bigger concern for policymakers, and that's where cybersecurity teams like NTT come to the rescue. So what are we seeing on the market? Well, every year since 8 years now, we are taking a deep look at all the data, and we publish something called the Global Threat Intelligence Report. And there's a number of interesting conclusions that come from those investigations. This is hard data, so these are not opinions. This comes from over 4,000 clients that we have, over 150 consulting engagements that we do every year, and data gathered by the 6 security operating centers. NTT is in a unique position because we see 40% of the internet traffic. So 40% of everything that goes through the internet goes through our backbones. We are taking samples of that traffic, and that allows us to, for example, see where there's new command and control centers being built. A command and control center is like the headquarters of a cybercrime organization that then basically gives commands to what we call zombies, right? A laptop that has been compromised, so that has been hacked, becomes a zombie, right? Which is a great analogy, of course, because the laptop basically will listen to the bot master, i.e. the criminal that controls that endpoint, and use it for things like DDoS attacks, right? So what we do is looking at that global traffic and predicting the next DDoS attack. It's one of the capabilities in our global threat intelligence platform. So based on all the data that we're gathering, and we're talking, terabytes or even petabytes of data, there's some interesting conclusions that I quickly wanted to share with you. One is that healthcare has become quite a popular segment for ransomware, and that's quite a cynical situation, of course. If you ransomware critical medical systems and encrypt, say, the CT scanners or other medical systems in life support, people will die, right? And for a cyber criminal, that's quite interesting, because the propensity to pay the ransom will be very high, right? You would pay, as if you're head of the hospital, and the choice is to have people, die or pay the Bitcoin ransom. You will pay the Bitcoin ransom, right? So that's why healthcare has been hugely targeted this year because of COVID-19. In finance, attacks continue. It's a lucrative segment. Remember Bank of Bangladesh, right? So, you know, great returns. In the technology segment, there's some interesting attacks going on as well. As you know, stealing intellectual property from technology companies can be very rewarding because you can sell it to their competitors, again, on the black market, and gain years of R&D efforts in simply buying or stealing the IP from your competitors. So that's something that has continued to happen. We've also seen interesting attacks on Zoom, for example, with, you know, Zoom bombing, which is quite a different story, but people, you know, literally invading virtual meetings. In manufacturing, again, ransomware has become quite popular. If you know that for large manufacturers, you know, stopping a plant for an hour could cost anywhere up to €1 million. It is very lucrative for the dark side to start, you know, taking manufacturers hostage by unleashing ransomware on those OT systems. Remember the Ukraine attack, right, which was an example of a nation-state attack. People from the dark side are doing the same things on manufacturing plants. And in retail, you know, especially e-tailers, people like Amazon, but the smaller versions of the Amazons, if you want, Amazon being particularly well protected, but there's thousands of e-tailers that don't have the deep pockets to build phenomenal security measures, and they are taken out by the cybercrime criminals as well. And of course, if you depend on your e-tail shop and you're being taken out for a couple of days, that is costing you a lot of money, right? So some of the key findings are that vulnerabilities remain a big problem. People are not patching their systems enough. Things like IoT weaponization is another problem. There's a lot of IoT devices that can be used as weapons, and that actually happened. The Mirai bot attack is an interesting example there. And also innovation. AI was mentioned by one of the previous speakers. We are using AI in the cybersecurity domain. So companies like Cisco or NTT are using artificial intelligence to do things quicker and smarter and defend against the attacks from the dark side. Unfortunately, the dark side is applying AI as well. You know, somebody once said, "Don't bring a human to a machine fight," and that is exactly what we're seeing now. We're running out of steam. Not just the number of cyber professionals. Like I said, we're 3.5 million people short. So if you want to choose a career, please consider cybersecurity. We will get you a job, and we will help you to get to the level where you can leverage AI to fight the dark side and protect humanity. And that's what I wanted to share in this short slot on, you know, where we are in terms of the state of cyber and why it is so important for all of us to consider cybersecurity as a career and to up our skills in cybersecurity, because the threats are there, and the impact on our economies and even human lives is considerable. That is being obviously supported by our policymakers, the European Commission, the governments in all of the member states, and also by private companies like Cisco and NTT. So cybersecurity is not just a hot domain with job certainty, I would say. It's also, I would say, a moral duty. And that's where I would like to end my presentation, opening up for questions. Thank you.
Stefan, thank you so much for that presentation. I feel like I just got out of a movie, an action film about cybersecurity. And I really want to thank you for the multitude of examples, which helps us kind of bring some of these sometimes abstract concepts to real life consequences. I completely agree with what you're saying about the kind of moral obligation aspect, particularly if we view, you know, Europe as a greater citizenry objective, right? As I'm sure the two first speakers also agree with. And I think, you know, through your presentation, we've been able to see just how massive the impact of cybersecurity threats is and will continue to be. So thank you so much for this incredible presentation. We do have a couple questions that have been put in the chat, so they'll be assigned to you. And of course, we'll maybe leave some time towards the end for people to ask their questions directly. This kindly brings me to our last but not least presenter, Fabio Floro, who's Business Development Manager in Cisco Italy. And most importantly, responsible for the Cisco Cybersecurity Co-Innovation Center, which is one of our crown jewels, I believe, when it comes to being able to demonstrate just how, first of all, how committed we are as a company to talking and developing tools in cybersecurity, but also by how committed we are in making it available to the larger public. So, Fabio, I'm going to hand you the floor, and thank you so much for your time today as well.
Thank you, Armand. Thanks a lot for the invitation to be part of this very interesting meeting. And yes, you introduced me. I am Fabio Flori. I'm Business Development Manager in Italy. I'm managing several things, and one of these is the Cybersecurity Co-Innovation Center that we have opened in Milan. Before going to the topic, just a quick introduction. You know, Cisco is the leader at worldwide level for cybersecurity. For us, is a very high priority, the cybersecurity investment, and so also the business related to this. By the way, NTT is one of our most important partners, so it was very interesting, the presentation by Stefan, and the topic that he deal with are topics that are very important for us in terms of priorities, investment, and business, of course. I'm going to share the presentation. Let me know if you could see it. Okay. So, as I told you, for us, security is very hot topic and high priority. For this reason, we decided to open in Italy a co-innovation center. This is the first co-innovation center that Cisco opened in Europe. And first of all, it's very interesting the location where we opened, because we decided after several checks to open it in a museum. Is in the National Museum of Science and Technology Leonardo da Vinci in Milan. And it is a museum that is very well known because it's visited not only by tourists, but specifically by students, by schools. They are very experienced to deliver training and labs also for families and for young students. So for us, it's the starting point, because for us, the Cybersecurity Co-Innovation Center first is a place of education, because we think that, of course, generally speaking in technology, but specifically in cybersecurity, the skills and the knowledge are not enough now compared to the requirements and to the requests that we see on the market, with the customer and everywhere. We need to increase our knowledge and also our culture in terms of security, because security starts with people, and so everybody need to know something about security and to be how to be more secure. Okay, so I have here some pictures just to make a virtual visit for you. As you can see, we have an auditorium where we deliver events. We have a meeting room because this innovation center is connected to Cisco World, also to the other innovation center all around the world, and we are able to connect when we need with expertise, knowledge, and content that we have all around the world. And as you can see here on the left, we have a demo area. This is not a demo center. We don't want to deliver demo about Cisco technology only. We want to deliver demo about the co-innovation that we build there, because for us, co-innovation means to create solution, to develop solution in collaboration with the customer, with partners, with startups, with universities, with researchers, because for us it's important to create solutions that are in line with the requirements of our customer, and typically they require some customization or specific functions and functionality that address their business needs. Okay, so this is the reason why it's called Co-Innovation Center. Okay, the guiding principles for our activities are these. First, for us is open innovation. It's partnering, as I told you, is building an ecosystem, because we see that more and more the ecosystem is relevant for the market and for this topic, specifically for cybersecurity. It's very important to build a solution that includes technology, includes also expertise for several companies that are able to work together to build a unique solution. Okay, As I told you, is also collaboration with the other innovation centers all around the world, okay? But also is collaboration with other functions that we have in Cisco. I make an example. STO for us is the Security and Trust Office. Is the team inside Cisco that guarantee the security for Cisco itself inside and give this expertise also to customers to explain how we face the problems related to security, cybersecurity. I make an example. STO is the team that sends us some emails to check if we are, let me say, we pay attention to this email, avoiding the phishing traps that we have when we are connected in the world. Okay. Third, of course, we want to build a center of excellence about cybersecurity and data privacy. These are the topics because we think that cybersecurity and data privacy now are a unique topic, are strictly linked together because you cannot speak of cybersecurity without going deeper in terms of data privacy and vice versa. And here we leverage on the expertise that we have in the data privacy EMEA team that is managing data privacy for Cisco and for Cisco customers. So again, here we are able to share the expertise that we have with our partners and the ecosystem that we build. Last but not least, it's also giving back to communities because and also to create, as I told at the beginning, skilled talents because we think that this is really a challenge that we have in front of us in terms of people that are engaged and educated on these very important topics. Going on, just a moment. So what we want to do in this center of excellence is to research, and here, as I told you, we work with researchers, we work with universities, because we want also to innovate in the next level of solutions that are interesting in the topic of cybersecurity. Sorry, just a moment. Second, we want to innovate and so build new solutions. We want to educate and we want to connect with the ecosystem, the partner, and the customer that we work with. Which are the topics that we face? Specifically, starting on top right, threat intelligence. Threat intelligence research, we think, is a very, very important topic to face because without threat intelligence, it's impossible now to fight against the evolution of attacks, the evolution of hackers that is always smarter. And so the threat intelligence is really the area where we are able to, first of all, to manage all the malware, to give information about it, to understand if the customer has been attacked from a specific malware, and then remediate in that situation. Here, we have an internal team in Cisco that is called Talos. Talos is a team of engineers that in Cisco work on threat intelligence, sharing with our customer all the attacks that we face every day all around the world. Consider that Cisco is facing more or less an average of 20 billion attacks every day all around the world on the network of our customer and our network. And so this experience and this knowledge is very important to be shared with all our customers around the world. Second, critical infrastructure security. Of course, security, it's a topic for everything in terms of digitization, but the critical infrastructure are really a very, very, let me say, critical area to be attacked. So the value chain security, the IoT, of course, and 5G that are new technologies that are including more and more devices connected to the network has to be managed and to be monitored, of course. And last but not least, cryptography. By the way, on this we have a specific expertise in Italy because in Italy we have a business unit developing connection and products on fiber optics, and they have a local expertise in terms of cryptography. Then, as I told you, privacy is very important because this topic is more and more sensitive also for the customer, for our customers that are explaining us that they are in trouble because they don't have enough expertise in terms of privacy. It's not enough to follow the GDPR. There is more around this, okay? And the last but not least, skill and community. Here, of course, we leverage on our Cisco Networking Academy, working in collaboration with the museum to build new, let me say, tracks in terms of education for students, for families, for people that are visiting the museum. And we organize events in collaboration with the museum to give this kind of education all around the people, for all the people that will visit the museum itself. Okay. Just another very important topic. We started some years ago to run this model. This model we call the Innovation Exchange. It's a model to build an ecosystem around Italy that will include, of course, customer, partners, startup, that will include enablers like universities, like universities, schools, accelerators, venture capital, and of course, the target is to create research of excellence, skills, products and services, and also center of excellence. This is a model that we started some years ago all around Italy. And so, for example, we have been able to create several collaborations with universities. Here you can see a list of universities that are collaborating with us all around Italy. And so we have active collaboration with them with specific project, research, or something like that. And this is very important because this is, in our opinion, an engine of innovation that we could leverage on. And of course, we can converge all the activities that we did all around Italy with these universities, specifically on the topic of cybersecurity and data privacy, in the Co-Innovation Center that we have in Milan. But it's not enough, so we decided to connect the innovation centers also to other locations where we have been able, through the Innovation Exchange, to engage partners and startups and incubators, accelerators all around Italy. So the Co-Innovation Center is connected with the other locations that we have all around Italy. Sometimes our location like, I make an example, Talent Garden, that is an incubator and an accelerator, or H-Farm or other companies in Italy that are at the center of the innovation of the country. So to go to the end of the presentation, it's a mix of innovation, solution, and of course, based on the topic of cybersecurity and data privacy that we are pushing with our innovation center all around Italy. And of course, is there not only for Italian customer or Italian people, is there for European, because for us it's an European center. So everybody is invited to visit us in this center. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Fabio, and thank you for giving us a virtual tour of this crown jewel of our European presence for Cisco. And to be honest with you, I was supposed to, just before the coronavirus, I was supposed to go down to Milan to actually visit it for the first time. It's still on the bucket list. So as soon as the situation allows, I will be one of the first visitors through the door. That's a guarantee.
We wait for you. We wait for you.
Thank you very much, Fabio. So that brings us to the end of our presentations, and it brings us to our question and answer segment. We have some questions that have already been, I believe, earmarked for Stefan that have not yet been answered. Can you confirm if that's right, Gianna?
Stefan replied to one question, but I think that he wanted to reply live to a question.
Sure.
Would you like to...
I believe this last
if
one
that's
from
possible,
Anastasios. Of course. And I believe this last one from Anastasios Politis, which is asking if there's a specific IT skills that companies are looking for in cybersecurity. I think both maybe Fabio and Stefan could have their take on that. So take it away, Stefan, and then maybe we'll work our way down the list to Anastasios' question.
Thank you, Armand. So this is a great question, and it's not simple to give a short answer, but I'll give it a try. So you don't become a security expert, in a week, right? It takes years. Like I said, I've been in the industry for over 20 years now. More in the management track than in the technical track. But looking at the question here, it's mainly oriented towards the more I would say, technical skills, I think, to how do I become a cybersecurity engineer? Well, the first thing I would recommend is if you can take a university or a college degree that has a lot of mathematics in there, that will definitely help. Cybersecurity has things like cryptography, which we use for encryption. There's a lot of math in there. Increasingly, universities around Europe are offering specific master degrees in cybersecurity. In Belgium, I graduated from the KU Leuven, and they have a master in cyber, right? So you'll find that in your country probably as well. That's definitely a good start. Now, if you already graduated in another domain, but you're interested in cybersecurity, that is no problem. Again, there's 3.5 million people short, right? So if we only wait for the people to graduate with a master in cybersecurity, we will never get there, obviously. There's simply not enough grads, right? So even if you've done, other studies and you're interested, there's specific programs, both offered by the government in your country, but also by the private industry. And there's whole career tracks that can be built. One of the better known ones is offered by ISC Squared, and a well-known certification there is the CISSP certification, and I was about to put that in the chat box there. So this is kind of the gold standard for a lot of cybersecurity companies that are wanting to hire professionals. Now, that certification is the highest certification kind of in cybersecurity, or an example of one of the higher ones, I would say. There's similar ones from other organizations like ISACA and others. The thing is that to get to that level, typically you need to go through a couple of steps. Like I said, you don't become a cyber expert in a week or a month or even a year. It's quite an investment, but you learn it on the job as well, right? So unlike the traditional master degrees, which are a great stepping stone into the industry, it is not just academic knowledge that you need. You also need field knowledge, starting to work with tools in this big tool bag that we have as cybersecurity specialists. And we're not just talking firewalls, we're talking pen testing tools, we're talking policy generating and validation tools, etc. So it's quite a broad domain. I find it immensely interesting. Like I said, I've been in it for 21 years and I'm still loving it, Armand. So great place to be.
Thank you for that answer. And I would add to that one of the prides that we have at the Cisco Networking Academy is the ability to take learners from even zero level of competency all the way to professional certification, Cisco professional certification in cybersecurity, whether that's CyberOps or CCNA security. So, one of the key things that I think was highlighted by Stefan in his answer just now is that, you don't necessarily need to wait to go through the university track to be able to qualify even for the entry-level positions. All over Europe, whether it's through vocational schools, whether it's through professional training institutes that are government-funded or private, thousands of Europeans are getting professional certifications from Cisco and from other companies as well to be able to start in the entry-level positions. Of course, when you get into kind of the higher level of the game, as Stefan had kind of shown us in some of his presentation, of course, it requires some more specific training. But for many of these entry-level positions, in particular those that will be accessible for example, SMEs whose requirements are a little bit, let's say, less aggressive than some of the bigger companies, we can definitely, I think it's definitely something that can be envisaged and acquired through the Cisco Networking Academy, for example, but also through our different training partners all over Europe. I think we had another set of questions. So we have from Andrea for Fabio Floro, who would like to know what's the set of skills suitable for an aspiring junior cybersecurity specialist right now?
Oh, good question. I think that, of course, if I could suggest to a junior engineer to focus on specific area, I suggest cybersecurity, as I told at the beginning, because we see that this area is the most requested on the market. It's very important, in my opinion, to have an horizontal knowledge in terms of IT, because it's very important to know which kind of area could be attacked for security, and then have a vertical and specialized knowledge on specific topic of cybersecurity. It's very important because cybersecurity, of course, will impact every area of the digital transformation of a customer. So the IT and the digital transformation are there to be very well known before going deeper in specific area of cybersecurity knowledge, in my opinion.
Okay, lovely. There is also just another quick one for you, Fabio, from Josue Cabrera, who asked, the new Co-Innovation Center is planning to invest on training for mid-level IT professionals as well?
Yes, because we are working with networking academies in Italy, not only to address, for example, students, but also to address in a reskilling program. It's a program to reskill people that are already employed because, of course, this is a requirement also for them, for people that is already working, and they need, of course, to increase their knowledge on new topic, and cybersecurity, of course, it's a topic where they need to be educated. And so we have a specific plan of reskilling for people, and specifically cybersecurity is a journey. You never stop to learn because as we have seen also from the presentation of Stefan, there are always new kind of attack, new let me say kind also to protect, and this is very important because it's a kind of war, no? You always fight against the new attack, and so you have to be always aligned with new solution and new technology that are introduced in security environment.
Thanks, Fabio. Stefan, I think maybe you can take this one. What is your take on being more secure, an open source software or proprietary software?
That's a great question. I often get that question, interestingly, Armand. So there's different views there. Some people say that open source is more secure intrinsically because you've got more eyes looking at the source code, right? So if you look at Linux, for example, that has grown from the open source security community, is considered to be quite a secure operating system because it's been validated for the last, I think, 30 years or something, right? And with all of its derivatives, whether it's Mac OS or Red Hat Linux and all the other ones. So that's an advantage. However, that's only true for open source that is heavily inspected, right, with large communities. One of the new trends that we're seeing now is that people no longer write codes. They actually assemble stuff from GitHub, right, which is an open source repository now managed by Microsoft. Now, when you, for example, nobody would write a sorting algorithm anymore. I mean, in my old days, and that's 30 years ago, university, we used to write code to, in C, to do a quick sort, for example, right? Quite a well-known sorting algorithm. Students now would no longer do that. They would simply download the, quicksort module from GitHub, and that's fine, as long as it is genuine code that isn't containing any nasty stuff, right? So we're seeing new attack factors now where people are publishing open source on GitHub, and they are including specific small parts of code in there that allow them to get to your systems once the code is compiled, right? So it's like a source code version of a Trojan horse that gets implanted once you compile the code. So open source is it's kind of secure in one way, but it's kind of risky in the other way. So we recommend, so if my clients are using open source, I strongly recommend to run proper code scanning tools that will look for those, source code level vulnerabilities that you can actually suck into your code base by using things like GitHub, Armand.
Thank you so much. We have another question from Anastasios Politis. But Anastasios, I'm going to invite you above all things, and this is a useful segue, so thank you, Anastasios, for giving me the opportunity. I'm going to invite you above all things to attend tomorrow's English-speaking session that is going to be a deep dive on our cybersecurity course offering of the Networking Academy. Your question is, so for example, would you propose a candidate to acquire CCNA, networking and switching first as the horizontal knowledge and then proceed to cyber ops? That is a potential pathway. There are other potential pathways, and there is going to be a deep dive on that very topic that's going to be led by our technical field team tomorrow in English. So please, if you have not yet registered, please register. In any case, everybody who's registered for this event will receive a reminder from Jana overnight. But it's definitely, I think, a worthwhile thing for you, for yourself, or anybody else interested in understanding how the different pathways offered by the Cisco Networking Academy could contribute to developing such a profile could work. There's another question for you, I think, Stefan or Fabio, whoever wants to take it, that says, is ISO IEC 27005-2018 an authority standard in conducting cyber risk assessments?
I'll take that one, maybe, Fabio. So it is one of the standards. When I assume that Puriti Mutunge here means that is this the single standard? Is it the authority? It's one of many, right? One of the previous speakers mentioned NIST, for example, and then NIS, which is again a different story. There's things like ISO 271 and not 5, which is again another track, and then there's about 10 other different frameworks, SAPSA and others. So there's no silver bullet, right? And that's what makes cybersecurity very interesting from my perspective on one hand, because it's quite a complex domain with lots of different levels and subsets. On the other hand, it's sometimes kind of hard to master if you get into this exciting world of cyber, which is why just linking back to the previous question, it's important for the industry, people like Cisco or NTT to provide academies that help young grads on that stairway to cybersecurity heaven, right? To quote Led Zeppelin here, Armand.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, and a great Led Zeppelin quote. I must say, I actually haven't listened to Led Zeppelin quite some time. Give me a good idea for tonight as my wind down.
In a while.
A question from Josue Cabrera, and maybe Fabio, but also maybe Domenico can answer this question. Would you think that a unified gremio or association of IT in Europe could better support the implementation of good security practices? If this is if you think so, do you think that areas like the Co-Innovation Center in Milan can become kind of central focal points around which European authorities and different actors in the IT field can gather to begin to organize themselves better?
Yes, for the second part, yes, absolutely. The Co-Innovation Center could be the place where we can work on this. And I leave to Domenico the answer for the first part because it's most his topic.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would say that at a European level, we are indeed working along those, direction, especially for the Cybersecurity Competence Center. I've indeed explained how this is comprised of, a European level and a national level. And the idea is to create a network of cybersecurity competence centers at national level, which can interact among themselves, but also, bring their needs at a higher supranational level. So this kind of pooling and gathering of actors, both private and public, is very much welcomed.
Fantastic. All right, thank you so much for that response. I think that, we are fantastic. All right, thank you so much for that response. I think that, we are 4 minutes to time, so if we don't have any other questions, couple quick reminders, a little bit of housekeeping that we like to do at the end of our meetings. The first thing is that all the recording slides and materials will be sent by email in the following days to all the participants. Please don't forget to complete the survey. It's the survey that's going to give you the certificate of attendance. So please complete the survey and have your say in the EU survey as well. That's been so kindly put together for us by our friends at the Commission. And again, last reminder for those of you who have not yet done so, please sign up for tomorrow's events. We have simultaneous events in Spanish, in French, in Italian, and in English, where we will be performing deep dives on our cybersecurity vertical in the Cisco Networking Academy, discussing how to run labs, and maybe trying to give you a few ideas of how you can better leverage, if you're already using the Cisco Networking Academy, how you can better leverage your coursework to support your students. And if you're not using us yet, hopefully it'll be the one that gets you across the line to sign up and form an academy. With that, I'd like to make a very, very special thank you also to Luca Lepore and Jenna Licalzi, without whom this event would not exist. So a big thank you, as usual, showing that the creativity, the determination, and the innovative spirit in Italy runs strong and runs deep. And so I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. I wish you all an excellent evening. Stay safe, and hopefully we will see each other again in another event very, very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Matt.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.